We know about the thought of the earliest Greek philosophers and thinkers, mostly indirectly through testimonies of their views and through fragments, brief quotations of things they actually said. One of the most famous of these is ascribed to the philosopher Heraclitus, and it goes like this: "You can't step into the same river twice." It's the most famous thing he said, or maybe the most famous thing he didn't say. It's actually reported in several different versions, and the one that I think is probably the right one goes like this: "Potamoisi toisin autoisin embainusin hetera kai hetera hudata epire." This means something like, "Over those who step into the same rivers, different and different waters flow." The idea, whatever version we accept, seems to be one that Plato ascribes to Heraclitus in his dialogue The Theaetetus. The idea would be that the entire world is constantly changing. It's like a river. From moment to moment, everything in the world first has one property, then another property. Nothing ever stays the same, nothing is stable. The world is a world of flux. But is that really what Heraclitus meant with his river fragment? I think not, actually. To get a better idea of what he had in mind, it would help to look at some other fragments ascribed to him. For example, my favorite Heraclitean fragment, "The road up is the road down." That doesn't look like it has anything to do with change. Rather, the point is what is sometimes called in the literature on Heraclitus the unity of opposites. The idea here is that the same thing can have two opposing properties. The road up is also the road down, so it is both up and down. The same thought, then, would apply to the river fragment. Although we're using change as an example, it's an example of the fact that the same thing can have two opposing properties at different times. The same point is made by another fragment about donkeys. In this case, Heraclitus says, "Donkeys prefer rubbish to gold." And here, the point is one about value. Although we, of course, value gold more than rubbish, donkeys disagree. And Heraclitus seems to be trying to tell us in that fragment that the gold or the rubbish unites two opposites. It's both valuable and valueless. Another similar idea is something else he said about animals. "Seawater is poisonous to humans, but healthy to fish." So in the seawater, we have a union of two opposites, namely poisonous and healthy. So Heraclitus' view, I think, was not that everything is always changing. We can use change as an example of the unity of opposites by observing that one thing has a property at one time which it lacks at another time. But that's only one example of a more general phenomenon, and the more general phenomenon is that opposites throughout nature are united. Thus, we shouldn't agree with Plato that Heraclitus was a philosopher of flux who believed that everything was different from everything else at every moment. Rather, we should see Heraclitus as being closer to another pre-Socratic, Parmenides, who said in an even more radical way that all things are one. To find out more about Heraclitus and the pre-Socratics, go to the History of Philosophy podcast website at www.historyofphilosophy.net.